7 or 6 or something.
Wow.
But I don't know
That's
where
a
all
lot
these
of
people
people.
are, because when they write back to you that it's going to go on a certain day, they put Eastern time.
Huh. Okay,
you
so
have
it could
to-
be all over the place.
Well, this gal was from Los Angeles, the leader. So, and the young man who was directing the whole thing, I don't know where he is. He seemed to be American speaking to me, but I don't know where he was. But they have all kinds of stuff, and they're reading a book this month, but I found out too late. So, but they're going to do another book in June, and once a week they talk about it. You go
Okay.
through, certain parts.
Sounds
book club-
fascinating.
Yeah, and I'm doing book club with the book
Okay.
clubbers.
Yeah, I saw there's a new book this week, a new club.
The
book club?
31st. The 31st. It's about Hedy Lamarr,
Oh, okay.
and she's Austrian born before the start of World War II, and she has a rough life, and she's married maybe 4 times or something.
Hello, Dick and Ellen. Yeah.
Hi. And there's a movie on Netflix about her.
Oh.
So Joan Zelkowitz said you should watch the movie first, which Alan and I did. It was very well done.
Okay.
Bombshell, the Hedy Lamarr, Bombshell, Hedy Lamarr, the Hedy Lamarr story or something. Very good. So Ellen watched the movie. So I ought to text Nan and tell her to watch the movie, because she'll be at the book club. Oh, She heard Joan say it. That's right. So if you have Netflix, everybody's been watching that.
Right. Everyone's I guess Chabad did a class or something on, because everyone's watching this unorthodox.
Oh, that was good.
Right. Well, Chabad, I don't think Chabad likes it as much. So they had a class on why it's all wrong or something. I didn't see it. I'd love to hear that one.
Well, the part of the Netflix movie that takes place in Germany is fiction. Did you know that?
Yes, everything in Germany was made up. Yeah. And they said like everything that happened in where is that? What's that place called?
Brooklyn.
Well, yeah. So
everything
there was true. It's yeah.
Right.
Well, not exactly, right? Because even the way she left wasn't exactly true.
Oh, really?
Yes. She did not leave all of a sudden like that. I think they left that community and lived outside that community together for a while.
Did they? Before she left?
Yes.
You know what? I have the book here that someone loaned me, and I have to read the book, so I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'd heard. I hadn't read the book either, so I'd be interested in finding out.
Yeah.
Gave those insights. Regardless, the show itself was very interesting and entertaining, and I didn't view it as 100% accurate. It told an interesting story.
Was it interesting story?
Yeah, based a lot. A lot of. I mean, the basic fundamental thing of leaving that community, and that sort of struggle was interesting.
It took a lot of nerve on her part.
Yeah.
A lot of guts.
It's and I wonder if they would say they hunted her down, like that how they presented. Yeah, I don't know how true that is, but I don't know.
I think for sure not to the extent that it looked like in the movie. Again, they did things here to make a good dramatic story.
Right.
Yeah,
it's
sure. I like watching the Netflix, and now I have the book here, so I'm going to read the book. It's next on my list.
Okay.
It reminded me of some ways of what it's like to try to break away from a cult.
Yeah, and I also think I saw something once upon a time like about the Amish, that like there was like the bad boy Amish guy who brings you back. Like I remember that kind of theme that like the head guy has like in his back pocket the bad boy Labudge guy. It's
that was an interesting character. Yeah,
theme out there.
Well,
they couldn't portray him in a worse light, could they?
Well, that movie Witness
they
was
really
about
did
the
not
Amish.
do that, and you can imagine why. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're still having some people sign on. I'm still just making sure trying to get my internet working here today. I put a new computer on yesterday, so everything's kind of still downloading, but it seems to be working. Let's see.
Rabbi,
I'm going to check my
I just got a
task
message.
manager. And
Rabbi
then,
Alex's,
yes.
it says Rabbi Alex's network bandwidth is low.
What happened?
I have no idea what that is.
And I have a message that says
bandwidth.
Carol's
That means
network.
my
It's
fault.
low.
No, it's
Right.
not you, because
So
I'm
what's
getting
going on
a
is-
message that Carol's bandwidth is low. And I got a message that my bandwidth
Yeah.
is low. I think it's a
Yes,
Yeah.
issue with Zoom
here
again.
it is.
Yeah, sometimes it is right.
Well,
If
since I don't know what a
everyone's bandwidth
bandwidth
is low
is.
at the same time, it's a Zoom issue. Well, I have a
Right.
feeling it sometimes takes a while to get started. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mute everyone. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. There it is. And wait, I'm still getting feedback. Let's figure that out here. Wait 1 second. Oh no, there it goes. Everything's just taking a few seconds longer. Zoom is constantly updating, and that partially can affect all of us, this whole bandwidth issue. But I think that if I get started, Spotlight, but if I get started, and here, let me go to video. Good. Now that's good. So what I'll need to do is we're going to get started, and let me just double check. I'm going to go to gallery view again. I think it will. I can see it's definitely a Zoom thing, because the pictures are kind of popping up slowly and back and forth. But I think sometimes it just has one of those slow days. I think we're live because I can still see people moving. For some reason, Rabbi Alex is on twice. That's fun. That is not me. I'm going to remove that other Rabbi Alex. I signed on as me by accident. Unmute, ask to start video, make host, withdraw co-host. Oh, from some reason, co-host. Withdraw host. I don't know who this is. We're going to get rid of the other Rabbi Alex. Here we go. Remove. That probably helps as well. There we go. I have no idea who that other Rabbi Alex is. Now, next question. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay.
I can
Any
hear you,
thumbs
but
up
I
there,
can't see
Bernice?
you.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay. Interesting. That is so strange. Here. What about what do you see instead of me?
A black
Paul,
box.
Black box.
Paul, I'm going to unmute.
A black box.
Fascinating. Okay, I see me perfectly.
There
let's
you
figure
are.
out why, but I have a feeling. And it's funny because you all disappeared. Am I there now?
You
Am
are,
I
but
here?
you're
No.
frozen. Rabbi,
I
you're
still
there,
see a
but you're
black box.
frozen.
Okay, you know what I'm. You know
I
what I'm
still
going to
have a
do?
black
Give me
box.
1 second. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to try something. Okay, let's see if that's better. Okay, tell me if that's better. Can you see me?
I can
still
see
see a
you.
black
This
box.
is Heidi, but you're frozen.
There you are. I see you
Okay.
now.
Nothing can see you.
Give me a second. I'm hoping my kids, it's 12 o'clock noon, so my kids might still be sleeping, so I might be able to use my home Wi-Fi. So can you see me and hear me?
Rabbi, you're
second.
kind of
Just one
frozen,
of those days.
blurry. You are not looking good. You look sickly.
Do I? Well, that's because I feel that way. Okay,
Hey.
give me a second. I'm going to give it one more second. I think it's just, give me a second here.
I think you need somebody to call Verizon for you and give them hell. I know
Yeah.
somebody who could do that.
Trust me, I did it for 2 hours 2 days ago. Okay,
Yeah,
give me
but
a second.
you're not effective, obviously.
Here we go. Okay, I'm going on the gallery view for a second. Let me see your faces. Good. Okay. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I just switched back and forth a couple of times. I'm going to try. Thank you, Karen, with the thumbs up. I'm going to go back to speaker view. I am taking the spotlight. I am muting all, but you can unmute yourselves if necessary, because I was getting some interference. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. I'm going to check the chat. Okay, that's okay. Good, good, good. Don't worry about that, Susie. And here we go. The two people I can see on the top of my screen are Carol and Paul. So Carol and Paul Barkowitz, if I stop, you just wave your hands like this. Okay. And every now and then you have to move so I know that we're still live. Yeah. Here we go. We're going to get started. If you've been with us before on Tough Questions, what we do is I give a spiel and then we open up the questions, and and today we're tackling tattooing and body piercing. And it's so interesting. Most people put tattooing and body piercing together, and yet they're very different when it comes to Jewish law. And again, like last week, I'm going to give you the punchline. Tattoos are against Jewish law. Body piercing is not against Jewish law. That's the punchline. And then I'll give you another moment. No one who has a tattoo is not buried in a Jewish cemetery. That is a myth, an urban legend, an old wives' tale. We still tell our children that, but don't bring your daughters to the rabbi and this has happened to me. The woman brings their teenage daughter into my office and says, Rabbi, tell my daughter that if she gets a tattoo, she will not be buried in a Jewish cemetery. And I pull the mother aside and go, that's not true. And then she's ruined it, right? All of a sudden, the rabbi said it's okay. By the way, there's a gray area between you can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery and the rabbi says it's okay. There is a small area between those two things of it's still a bad idea. So now that I've hit you with a few of the conclusions, let's start from the beginning. We're going to start with tattoos. Just because I announced tattoos first. So tattoos, according to the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, tattooing is a no-no. It is. It's against Jewish law. And if someone really cared about that, then we could stop the conversation and just say, God said no tattoos. That's true. The Torah says no tattoos. Why? Because they were a form of idolatry. Some people will come back to me, but my tattoo is not idolatry. Fine. Okay. And why? Where are tattoos coming from back in biblical times? They were coming from how the other people mourned, usually. They would mourn by gashing their flesh or self-cutting. And it was an outward sign of mourning for the heathens. Who is signing on as me? That is so strange. I have to change my password is what we're learning. Okay, that is not me. Okay, so.
That's really weird. I signed on as me.
Oh,
Okay,
God
I
in
apologize.
heaven, Mark.
I signed on as me.
Mark Blatter. That's
Sorry.
that's not you. That's me, Mark. And you're messing up my internet, Mark. And I have to change my
Okay.
password, Mark. Okay.
I'm sorry.
So, Mark, sign on as you.
Okay. I'll go back. Goodbye.
No. You know what? It's working. You know what, Mark? Don't sign off. Here, let me rename you so I don't get confused. Rename Mark. And I'm just going to take away the whole co-host thing. You're fine.
Okay.
But
How about Mark?
you are cute.
Hayata?
Yeah, just quiet. Okay, withdraw co-host. Okay, and now you're muted. Okay. So now we came to the bottom of it. Okay, but we're working and I'm not going to mess with anything. Right, Carol and Paul? I'm working? Okay, good. Okay, so, and what does it say in Vayikra, Leviticus? You shall not make gashes in your flesh for the dead, nor incise any marks on yourselves. I am the Lord. God says no tattoos. The Talmud, the Jewish book of law 2,000 years ago, says, if a man wrote on his skin, pricked in writing, so there was tattooing, right? Pricked writing into his skin, he is culpable. But only, they're going to change, they're going to move back, but only if he writes it and pricks it in with ink or eye paint or anything that leaves a permanent mark. The rabbis, and this is a big thing for the rabbis, and it's elsewhere, permanency. Shabbat, The stuff we can't do on Shabbat for Maimonides, Rambam, Rabbi Moses ben Maimon, it was all about permanency. Like you could tie your shoes, but you couldn't tie your knot on your tree, like to make a swing. So permanency is important. And to me, by the way, when I teach children or teenagers about tattooing and body piercing, I focus on permanency. And we'll talk a lot more about it. So the Talmud says, yes, no writing on your skin if it's permanent. So what's the problem? What is the overall problem in the Torah? Don't imitate. Don't do what the other people are doing. It's a very, right? Yeah, don't do, we shouldn't do what everyone else is doing. Why do we wear kippahs? Because everyone was walking around with their heads uncovered. So what does Maimonides say, Rambam? This tattooing was a custom among the pagans who marked themselves for idolatry. So even if you weren't doing it for idolatry purposes, you look like an idolater by having tattoos, right? You look like them. And another anti-tattoo, maybe body piercing issue could be, have you ever heard like someone gets a tattoo and jumps into a lake and then like gets some, illness and dies, like this concept that and if you're adding risk to your health, that's unnecessary, right? Sometimes you might need a surgery or something, but if you're adding unnecessary risk to yourself, that could be a problem in Jewish law, and pain as well. If you're adding pain, I watch these people getting tattoos like on, whatever silly show is on television at night, and I can't find the controller to turn it off. It drives me crazy. And it seems like it's very painful to get a tattoo. That seems to be the like, oh, it's so painful. And I'm like, Jewish law would say, no, don't hurt yourself unnecessarily. They don't have to. So pain and health are kind of important to Jews. Don't do it. Don't do this unnecessarily. So what is Deuteronomy? And you're going to bring up it. Someone's going to ask me a question. I'm just going to beat you to it. The body is a temple. That's not Jewish. That's someone else's book. The body is a temple. However, it is something we're supposed to take care of. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 15 commands us to take care of our bodies. It's about health. It wasn't the body's a temple, that kind of thing. Now, by the way, you can also argue with me, smoking, alcohol, caffeine, things that should we not be doing. And there's an argument you shouldn't be doing these things that put your health at risk. And of course, if you ever been to, even a very religious, observant synagogue, you might find a bunch of men smoking cigarettes. You could argue that smoking cigarettes is also against Jewish law. And yeah, we still bury them too. And again, the refusal to bury Jews in a Jewish cemetery who have tattoos never existed, doesn't exist. It's just something, but rabbis don't say it too loudly because we want you to think so. Right? We want our daughters to think that we're not going to bury them. It is an urban legend. Another argument against tattoos today, it was something done to us. It's a very, right? What do Jews care about? There's 613 commandments, and every Jew cares about 5 of them, but every Jew, it's a different 5 for each Jew. But what are the top 5 kind of commandments that Jews care about? Not the other 608. Tattooing, cremation, intermarriage, I don't know. And then, then it's kind of a free for all, but those are the kind of like the big 3. But if you think about the tattooing and the cremation, I think part of it is it was done to us. How dare us do it to ourselves? It's an emotional argument. It's a popular one. So you don't have to apologize, Mark. You're fine. Okay. So, and stop texting me. So it is, so it's something done to us. It was the Holocaust. By the way, if something is done to you, the Shulchan Aruch 500 years ago questions, what if someone tattoos you? Would you have trouble in the world to come? Even though, of course, the world to come doesn't care if you have a tattoo. And what does it say in Shulchan Aruch? If the tattoo was done in the flesh of another, the one to whom it was done is blameless. So if someone tattoos you while you're sleeping, you're in college and you pass out from too much alcohol and they tattoo your forehead, you're still okay, according to Jewish law. So back to the body modifications thing, the body is a temple. And I said that's not a Jewish thing, but there is another way of looking at the body. and some people will bring this up like with the abortion argument. I'm sure that's another tough question for another day. It's my body. I can do whatever I want with it. That is not a Jewish view. Although, again, the gray area between your body is a temple and I can do anything I want to my body, there's some gray area between those two things. We believe that our bodies are on loan. God has loaned us our bodies. Let's say our souls are permanent, the souls are ours, but the body's on loan. And at the end of our lives, we have to return our bodies to God, right? Back into the earth. We're going to, earth, the ashes, dust to dust, not one of ours, but we do go back into the earth. Adam comes from the earth, Adamah. God made Adam from earth, and we return to earth. We are on loan. So I always explained it to kids. If I borrowed my friend's car and I decided to paint it pink, and then I returned it to my friend, that would be a no-no because it's not mine to do what I want. And so a strange Jewish view, but a very popular Jewish view and the Jewish view is these are not just our bodies and we can do whatever I want. My sister, no, someone else. But I have this person who's like, I can do drugs. It's my body. No, not really. That's not the Jewish answer. Now, when it comes to body modifications, there are Jewish laws that say you could get a nose job, right? Everyone I knew as a kid in my rich Jewish area had a deviated septum. It was amazing. Every single girl I knew had a deviated septum, and all had to have nose jobs. And cosmetic surgery actually was allowed according to the Talmud if it helped you get a spouse. Like if you were so, oh my God, you're hideous. It's like that stupid movie that the woman was playing like Barbara Streisand, The Star is Born. And it's like, Barbara Streisand has a big nose. Let's just say it, okay? But the one who was playing her, Lady Gaga, is not hideous. And so it's like, and so she's playing that character like she's Barbara Streisand. She goes, oh, I'm so ugly. Don't look at me. It's Lady Gaga. I mean, it's not, it's just, it didn't really work in that movie. But back to, if it did keep you from getting a spouse, then you fix it according to Jewish law because you got to look good. Not for yourself, by the way. That's not everyone's like, oh, I'm doing it for myself, not for others. But the Jewish law version 2,000 years ago was you do it for others, not for yourself, right? It's the opposite of the modern view of cosmetic surgery. Yeah. Okay. And if you already have a spouse, let it go. Okay. So when I talk to teens about tattooing, as much as I like to say, well, God said so, and they're like, oh, okay, God said so, I won't do it. That's not a very effective argument, it seems like, on anyone. Like when we tell our children, because I said so. I usually explain that I just think tattoos are short-sighted. I really don't know anyone who has a tattoo as a teenager, and when they're 80, that tattoo looks the same. I don't know if anyone knows this, but your body moves, between over the years, and your skin is your canvas. Your canvas gets a little different over, the next 80 years. So very few people seem to appreciate their tattoos when they're 80. And I also explain to kids that your tastes change, that you might like Pokemon. Or, there's some movies like that where someone gets a tattoo of like, Kids on the Block or something, some rock band, but now they're like 40 years old and they've got like, Pokemon or, SpongeBob on them. My sister has a tattoo on her. Let me describe my sister's tattoo. It goes from her ankle to her hip, up and down the leg. That's her canvas. It is two naked people intertwined with an umbilical cord coming out with a fetus hanging from that under an alien moon. That is her tattoo. And when she got that tattoo, she would wear very short stuff on Yom Kippur and then come onto the bima because my father's the cantor, and that's the best way to advertise this tattoo. Her tastes have changed. That was art to her when she was 16, 17, or 18. Now that she's 45-ish, I don't know, something like that. it's not she doesn't have the same taste. And so I try to tell people that the permanence, back to the rabbis, the permanence and the short-sightedness of tattoos can really get you in trouble because you're not really thinking like, what is it going to look like when I'm 80? And that will lead also to the gauges and the earrings thing. We're about to get into body piercings. Earrings are going to be okay because they're not permanent. You can't really tell I had an earring when I was, an idiot. But it's, if you get a gauge, those big monster things, those are permanent. You have to get like plastic surgery to fix that. I'll finish for the tattooings. I'm getting close to the end. I knew a mother who was with her daughter, and her daughter was like, I want to color my hair. And the mother's like, well, I'll take you to a professional so you don't ruin your hair by coloring it. But she did. So one mother would always say, I'll do whatever you want, but it can't be permanent, and I'll do it professionally. She would take her to like a professional fake tattoo artist that doesn't come off unless you do something to it, or fake hair. So one mother would say, I'll do whatever you want. Let me just make sure you don't make a permanent mistake. Another mother I thought was even smarter. Whatever the daughter did, the mother did. It was kind of genius. So the daughter would get like blue hair, and the mother would then the next day get blue hair. And that really stopped the daughter, because what daughter wants their mother to have what she has? So it really stopped that daughter. There's some cute things out there. Again, more than God said so. But, and by the way, there's a modern question, medical tattoos. You're going into surgery, and, trust me, there's some mistakes that are made. Sometimes they take out the wrong whatever, or the wrong side. So there's medical tattoos that can be permanent. That's okay according to the Orthodox as well. Medical tattoos are okay. The 2007 Pew survey said 36%, I'm sure it's more now, 36% of 18 to 25-year-olds have tattoos, and 40% of 26 to 40-year-olds have at least one tattoo. So you ever go on vacation, you see a lot of tattoos, so go to the wave pool. But there were tattoos back in the old days in the 2nd century. That's a long time ago. 2nd century, Rabbi Shimon said, a tattoo. Now this is going to be like a pro tattoo guy. Tattoos are only forbidden if it's a God's name, small g, a God's name, and thus related to idol worship. So unless the tattoo was specifically idol worship, tattoos are okay. That's what Rabbi Shimon said. And what does it say? Here it is. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda says, in the name of Rabbi Shimon, here he is not culpable unless he writes there the name of a God, not the God, a God. For it is written, or incise any marks on yourselves, I am the Lord. So they connected the God in the incision. The Talmud, Bar Kappara, says, and only if you tattoo the name of a deity other than God. So I guess if you tattooed God, I'll tell you a story. Yod Hey Vav Hey, you're fine, but don't do that. And by the way, there are Jewish tattoos. Some of you have been in some of my classes, have heard me tell the story. I went to that theater that closed up that now is a UPMBC hospital, where Carnegie, Cannonsburg kind of is, or whatever that area is, Bridgeville. And there was a theater there, the Dollar Theater. So I'm going in there, and there's a guy taking the tickets. He sees my kippah. He says, I want to show you something. He rolls up his sleeve, and from his wrist to his shoulder, it says in Hebrew, really nice, really well written too. Yeah, it's a good script, good font. It says, God is my friend. And I'm like, oh, God is my friend. He's like, yeah, I just wanted to, kind of, show my Judaism, and that's his way. I didn't have the heart to tell him that every word was wrong. I just couldn't do it. I mean, it was like he took a Hebrew English dictionary and found God is, which there is no is, my friend, right? If you didn't know Hebrew and you try to say God is my friend with a Hebrew English dictionary, you will never get it right. And it was like so wrong, but I couldn't tell him. It was permanent, and I felt bad for the guy. And then I had a Jewish athlete, and every athlete, all these gymnasts were getting their tattoos done. And so she says to me, I'm going to grow up and I'm surrounded by non-Jews. I'm going to be on dates and boyfriends, and no one's going to know I'm Jewish. She says she tattooed the Shema on her, so this way she always knows she's Jewish, even when she takes her clothes off. And I thought it was fascinating. It's still a no-no. but I thought it was fascinating. She spelled it right, at least. And this idea of Jewish tattoos. I'm going to tattoo I know people who tattooed their grandparents' number on their arm. Yeah, it's their grandfather had a tattoo, and they took that tattoo and put it on their arm. It's a fascinating, or a Jewish star. And by the way, so someone asked me actually this morning, I think, in services, what about pre-conversion? Right? So I'll tell you the story. I'm sure some of you have heard the story before. I'm with three rabbis, well, two rabbis and me, and we're at the conversion of this guy. And, when I studied with him for like the last year, 2 years, he always wore turtlenecks. Right? I only know you from like up here usually. So now he's in the mikvah and he's got nothing on. Now I don't usually look many past the waterline anyway, but this guy is covered from neck to toe in tattoos. I mean, it's like one of those, right? Front, back, everything's covered. I never even knew. So this is years ago, when I was young. And I looked at the other two rabbis like, well, he had them when he wasn't Jewish. That is not one of the 7 Noahide laws. It's not like all humanity shouldn't get tattoos. Yeah, don't murder, don't kill animals, fine. But it doesn't say don't tattoo. So he didn't break any Jewish laws by getting them before he was Jewish. Now he's Jewish. So now we have a Jew covered in tattoos. And to ask him to remove the tattoos, by the way, would be, well, first of all, impossible. And number 2, very painful. Even worse than my understanding than putting it on, which again would break Jewish law. So there are Jews who had tattoos before they were rabbis or whatever. I don't have a tattoo. Don't look on my ankles or my tushy. And by the way, when people think, oh, we're not going to bury someone with a tattoo. When do you catch that tattoo? The Chevra Kadisha, they're washing the body and they find a tattoo, a little heart on the grandma's ankle. I mean, there was no practical way of stopping the burial anyway, because it's not like, most of our tattoos for most people, I guess, aren't being seen unless you have a face tattoo. Those are lovely, but not recommended in Jewish law. The conservative movement officially puts out a law, a tshuva. This is the end of tattoos. The conservative movement says, and I know the conservative movement says a lot of things. The conservative movement says we discourage tattoos, but they may be buried. And the Orthodox do bury as well. And again, most people don't get caught with their tattoos, until you're washing the body. So that is tattooing against Jewish law. Many Jews have it. You're still buried. It's still against Jewish law. Okay. Piercings. Piercings are a little shorter because piercings are technically okay. Tattoo and piercings are 2 different things in Jewish law. Piercings. We see in the Torah that it's common among Jews to have piercings, ears and nose piercings, women and men, right? Men have piercings too in the Torah. The golden calf. Yeah, men, bring me your gold rings. By the way, the tradition is that, it was always the men were bad at the golden calf and women are always good in Jewish tradition, right? That's why they got Rosh Chodesh. So at the golden calf, there's a tradition that it was the men's gold that made the golden calf. But what did the women's gold make? The women's gold piercings? They made the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the holy movable temple and the thing. So it's kind of cute. Men stink, right? Girls rule, boys drool. And so men's gold rings, earrings and nose rings made the golden calf. Women made the Mishkan, the tabernacle. Abraham's gift through his servant Eliezer, Abraham's gift to Rebekah was a nose ring. Here's a nose ring. I mean, it was common in the now. I brought this up because I think we just read it in the Torah, not actually right before the I think it was probably the last Shabbat before quarantine. And I think we were in Exodus, Shemot, and we talked about the pierced ear of the slave. The slave, he's supposed to go free. And he's like, no, I love my master. I don't want to go free. So you take the slave, you put him at a doorpost, you put it all, and you put an earring in, and it's a sign of permanent servitude. And I think I told the congregation that day, I said, I remember when I got my earring, back in the old days, the stud, and I'm not a stud, but the earring was a stud. And my mother and father just laughed at me and go, yeah, you're a permanent slave. It's a very Jewish rabbi joke, when you see an earring. As it says in Exodus, Shemot, his master shall take him before God. He shall be brought to the door or the doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, AWL, and he shall then remain his slave for life. Ezekiel 16, like that's a negative earring, I guess. Ezekiel 16, the book of prophets, a nose ring is a God-given attire. It kind of, there's a lot of weird things in the prophets, but one says a nose ring is a God-given attire. And if it's cosmetic, if it makes you look good, right? I wear the right earring, I attract a spouse. You could argue, fine, if it's that maybe. I'm not so sure about tongue rings. It's no offense, but if the piercing keeps people from looking at you or makes you turn away, like, oh, I just can't look at that thing anymore, then you could actually argue that's against Jewish law. If it's keeping you from finding a spouse, like, every now and then I get someone who's like, they're very different, and they'll say, a teenager, and they'll say, well, they should see the real me and look past the facade. Jewish law would say, well, people do judge books by their cover, and if they can't get through that, then if you're keeping people away from yourself, then that's a no in Jewish law. You're not supposed to keep people away. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, probably the last rabbi the last Orthodox rabbi that the world kind of accepted his stuff. Rabbi Moshe. After that, no rabbi seems to no one can agree again, but he was like in the 80s. And Rabbi Moshe Feinstein said there's no problem with cosmetic surgery. Then a conservative rabbi wrote a thing on piercings, Rabbi Alan Lucas, and he said there's no difference between the non-permanent piercing of the ear for fashion purposes, or the non-permanent piercing of the eyebrow, navel, or even nipple, which is a word that I don't think I've ever said out loud before, but it's in the tshuva. So if it's not permanent, Rabbi Lucas in the conservative movement tshuva, says it's fine if it's not permanent. I still think that if it keeps people from talking to you, you may have a problem. All right, wait. Just a couple more words, and then I'm opening it up. The Reform movement made a response as well, a tshuva. The Reform movement does put out things every now and then. In the late 1990s, there was a question on tattooings and piercings. And what does it say in the responsa in the Reform movement? And they question, should you get these piercings? And the question they ask is this truly the way that we Jews, commanded to pursue and practice holiness, should aspire to beautify and adorn ourselves? So they're just kind of questioning, is it really so Jewish to do this stuff, all these piercings? And the Orthodox movement, I went on Chabad and, Aish and all those other good things. They sometimes go into tzniut. I don't know if you ever heard the word tznius, like if you're walking down the street in Meisharim and you're wearing shorts and they don't throw stones at you, they might yell at you tznius, which means modesty. That can these piercings be immodest, right? If you have a pierced belly button, usually you're showing it off. It's like a lot of people want to show off their piercings. And so could it be a form of immodesty? The piercings is one question. Another one is, again, imitating others. It's not a Jewish thing to do. And then finally, there was one other argument and I'm finishing on this one just because it's Torah-itic. It's this whole thing about men should not dress like women. And so the question was, in some societies where men don't wear earrings, if it's a woman's thing to do, then you could say that's against Jewish law because it's a man imitating a woman. But they go on to say, if it's a society, if men wear skirts or kilts, then that's not breaking the Jewish law because it matters where you're at to bring up that one. Okay, I see a chat question. I'm also going to, that's no problem, thank you. And I'm going to go to gallery view. I'm going to take off my spotlight, cancel spotlight, so now I can see everyone. So Zoom updated. And what Zoom did was they made it so I can't unmute all. that I can mute all, but I can't unmute all. But you can all unmute yourselves if you have a question. I see a hand raised. Let me see. Raise your hand if you. Okay, Irv, I'm calling on you. I see. Here it is. You have to unmute yourself. I can't unmute you. Do you know how to?
It's
There you go. Perfect.
A comment and a question. Generally, surgical site markings are done with a marker. It's temporary. It comes off in a couple of days. Where they'll use actual tattooing will be if somebody's having radiation therapy. They'll put marks that are used for positioning the person undergoing the radiation.
Right.
And the question,
And that's permanent because they're going to go back. Yeah.
And somebody may be having radiation over a couple of months, so they don't want to use a temporary marker. They want you to be positioned exactly in the same position each time. Question, since cosmetic things are okay, where would the standing be for cosmetic procedures like tattooing an eyebrow to enhance the appearance of the eyebrow, or doing tattoo eyeliner?
That's a great question. Oh, there's my eye doctor. Okay. Probably canceling on me again. Okay. So, back to, yes, right. Medical, everyone says yes. That's the eyeliner thing is interesting. The permanent eyebrow or eyeliner. You could argue that if it enhances how you look, that it helps you, get a spouse, you could argue Jewish law that would say it's okay. Most of us would probably still say, can you do something? Can't you just, it sounds a little lazy. Can't you just do it yourself? But I don't know. I've always thought about tattooing hair on me, like my bald spots. It's can I tattoo, my head to have hair? But I hear it doesn't look the same. So Irv, I would say that there is a Jewish argument that a permanent tattooed eyebrow or eyeliner, if it again, remember, we live in a society that says, oh, I'm doing this for myself. That won't be the Jewish answer. The Jewish answer traditionally in the last 2,000 years would be, I'm doing this so I look good for others, which is so against everything we're taught in our society. So I would say that you probably could argue for it. Because if it enhances your look. I see Heidi with her hand raised. I can unmute you. And Irv, I hope I helped that. It's a hard question. Oh, wait, what's that?
For some of us, tattooing hair would take an awful lot of ink.
Yes, I know. Me too. All right, there we go. Heidi, what do you got?
Okay, well, Irv stole one of my questions because I was going to ask the same thing. But
really, the tattooing stuff.
Right, because you see all this cosmetic stuff that they say that you can get your eyebrows tattooed, eyeliner, and it is permanent, I guess, but safe. I don't know how safe it is. But in any way,
I don't know, and I don't know how it looks after 20, 40 years. Like, does it start drooping?
I have no idea.
Okay,
but
Heidi, that's your question. I'll go back to Irv after that. He'll tell me.
So, two questions. One you just created when you were talking about, Irv said it would take a lot of ink if you would think about. But so what about the gashing? Because they do have those plugs and those things that men can do for baldness. Where does that fall into Jewish law?
Interesting. Go on. Okay, that's one question. What's your other one?
The other one was a question is you were saying about tattoos don't stop you from being buried in a Jewish cemetery. Right. What things would?
Okay, here it goes. So, and then I'm going back to Irv because I thought maybe you had an answer to my question. What happens when you get your tattooed eyebrows or eyebrows? Yeah, and again, this is way beyond my knowledge. And what is it? Does it look good? 40 years later. Okay, hair plugs for men, Heidi. Hair plugs for men. You could call gashing. They don't usually put them onto the body piercing list, but Jewish law would say, if it enhances your look for others. Again, I'm not so sure Jewish law would say that if you're married. It's kind of an Orthodox conservative reform thing. I think Orthodox would say no-ish. Although people are going to do it, most people come to me after they do something like, Rabbi, I did this. Did I do something wrong? And then, I'm always going to say, oh, it's fine. But maybe someone goes to a rabbi before they do something. But I think an Orthodox rabbi, I think I would probably say, if you're married, don't do it. It's not because of the gashing the flesh. I don't think that the hair plugs gets anywhere close to the gashing the flesh, but it is gashing your flesh. So I would just say it's unnecessary. We avoid unnecessary. Jewish cemetery, by the way, interesting question. I was thinking about that too as I was studying for this thing. And what would keep you from a Jewish cemetery? Not being Jewish. And not even that, there are many cemeteries that have non-Jewish, but there's not much. That's when I was doing this, there was on the Chabad website, it was something about yes, we bury tattoos and we bury people who eat cheeseburgers and we bury people who worship Satan, there's a lot of laws out there. This is one of them. And yes, they're breaking that law when they have a tattoo, but they're breaking so many other laws. It was kind of the answer. So if you murder someone, you still get buried in a Jewish cemetery. So let me go just to the worst law to break. I'd say murder is a pretty bad one. You can murder someone. By the way, suicide was an interesting one. When I was a kid, they don't do this as much anymore, but maybe some cemeteries still do this. Not that I deal with. When I was a kid, if you committed suicide, you were buried at the edge of the cemetery. Some would say on the outside of the cemetery. But even the suicides were usually buried in the cemetery. But some said the suicide might not be, because some rabbis felt that by punishing the suicide person, which it's a little late, you're just punishing the family, but by punishing the suicide, you're deterring others. So you could see some people say, oh, if you intermarry, you can't be buried. But no, you just can't bury their spouse. I know many cases where they bury the Jewish person, but not the non-Jewish person. So usually the only thing is, if you're a Jew, you can be buried. No matter what law you break. Okay, now Irv, were you going to say something about what tattoo or something about what it looks like? Oh no, you're on. I unmuted you. So now you have to unmute yourself. Now you do it. Okay, go on. What do you got, Irv?
Just like any other tattoo, the ink can drift.
Okay.
And it can fade over time, and the skin's going to change. So
okay. So,
but concerning both tattoos and hair transplants, in my research, I've never found anybody that can guarantee if you get it, there's no pain and no blood.
Right. And there's going to be that whole how much pain and how much risk, right? The people get tattoos and jump in a lake and then die. That's not the normal risk. I don't expect someone who gets a tattoo to drop dead. But I still say if you can avoid unnecessary risk and pain, you do. I'm really anti-pain and risk. Okay, Harvey, I see a hand raised. You have to unmute yourself. We can hear you.
Okay. How about gashing circumcision?
Yeah, someone did bring so I was on this website when I was preparing for this, and it was all these views on body piercings and tattooing, and it was the humanist view, the secular view, and one of them says, compared, gashing the skin to circumcision, right? And if you think about how the Torah presents circumcision and tattooing, in a way, it's right. It's not the gashing of the flesh. It's the gashing of the flesh like someone else. Because yes, Jews gash flesh, and that's called circumcision. And that's the Jewish thing. They might even say non-Jews shouldn't circumcise because it was just as we shouldn't imitate them. We don't, the rabbis may have said, the Torah would have said, even though Jewish law does not apply to others, that yes. So that's a Jewish gashing, and tattoos are non-Jewish gashing. And so, it wasn't the gashing of the flesh as much as it was, we're doing what the non-Jews the idolaters are doing. So very good. And yes, some anti-circumcision person attacked circumcision using the Torah line, it was like an anti-circumcision rabbi who was using that gashing the flesh to say anti-circumcision. But the Torah was fine. Torah understood there's Jewish gashing and non-Jewish gashing. Very good. That's a good way of putting it. Almost. It wasn't all gashing. It was that what they're gashing. We shouldn't do. So very good. Anyone else had a hand raised? I'm looking around. Hand raise, hand raise, hand raise, hand raise, hand raise, hand raise, hand raise. No. So no chats. Okay. It's always 45 minutes is like kind of a Zoom limit. I keep telling that to people who are trying to, plan 4-hour Zoom events. You need breaks. I have a plan. I got a plan coming up for future Shabbats where we're going to actually take a break, in between, like, if I do a 2-hour service, I might have like a 5-10 minute break. So you stretch, get some air, coffee, bathroom, and then you go back. So back to us. So it's tattooing and body piercing. Tattooing against Jewish law. Still got them. Still against Jewish law. Still can be buried. Still against Jewish law. Body piercings, fine. If they're not permanent. The hole fills in, I guess, and they were done, and then we got into other stuff. But it's kind of an easy answer. Unfortunately, I'd love to keep our kids away from them, because in both of these cases, the reason I put these together is because I think they're both short-sighted, but telling a kid they're short-sighted is like telling a kid that they should fill out their will, or telling any of us to fill out a will. A lot of us are still, we're too young. So try to tell a kid not to wear, don't ride a motorcycle, and our motorcycles against Jewish law. So, but it's a question I get all the time, and I wish I could be harsher on it. But we don't have the stick that goes along with it. Other than you won't regret not doing it when you would have regretted doing it when the time comes. But that's a long time from now for a lot of people. As our tastes change in art. It's how many of us put something up in the 70s, and putting a mirror up on your ceilings and your walls all over the house was cool in the 70s, not as cool in, the 2020s. So our tastes change. So I recommend nothing permanent. It's and of course, and if you have a tattoo, someone in this room has a tattoo, it's okay. You're not going to hell, and don't get any more, and you can't get it removed. And by the way, when they get it to a point where they can remove tattoos, and they're trying, and I've not seen anything that's actually effective, then you could argue Jewishly, you should get them removed. But we see nothing out there that removes tattoos good, painlessly. There's nothing out there. But if they ever do, there's like one where they actually inject more pigment to the color of your skin. That's like, ironically, then you're getting tattoos to remove your tattoos. So, but I am no tattoo expert. Susie, what do you got? And let's see, you are unmuted.
So, isn't that more gashing though?
Yes, that's the irony. Yes, you mean the tattoo that replaced the skin tattoo? Yeah, and it doesn't look the same. People tell me also. I mean,
you hear stories about women when they're going to get married that they want to wear a strapless gown, and so they want yeah.
Right, and your waitress always has these strange Band-Aids on them, and whatever, they have like they constantly have that like gauze pad on them, and it's just most of the times I just feel bad for these people, because I kind of play it out. What does it look like, X amount of time, or when you're getting married, but that's only 15 minutes of your life. But you would say Jewishly, you shouldn't get that tattoo either. The removing of the tattoo. That's I mean,
to make either argument.
Tough. Yeah. It's just, it's thank God. So far, my kids have not come home and told me they got one. Yeah. Hopefully they just keep their tattoos hidden from me as long as possible. I won't disown them, but I won't be happy. Yeah, because I'll just look at them like they're idiots. I'm like, what are you an idiot? But that's what kids are. Yeah, thank God we didn't have cell phones back then. All right. So I think it's 12:48. I think we're good. Next Thursday, I'm looking ahead, and we're going to have a communal study session next Thursday night because it's Shavuot. So we're probably not going to do tough questions on next Thursday, because I try to, not give you 2 adult eds in the same day, because I don't want you to get too sick of me. Seeing me every day is enough for most people. So probably going to take a week off of tough questions. Watch your Sunday emails, but prepare for next Thursday night. I want to say 7:00 maybe. I think it's 7 or 7:30. We're going to do, all the rabbis are going to teach, all the South Hill, well, the ones who will show up. But, it's like myself, Rabbi Aaron, Emily, Jessica, Amy, and we're all going to try to teach that night. So,
Is it going to be a Zoom thing, or is it going to be one of those?
No. Good question.
That was horrible.
Yeah, I know. That was out of my hands. But this one, they made the mistake of giving me the job of creating the Zoom link. Then they took it from me and said, "Oh, we're gonna." I don't know. It's kind of a thing out there. We're gonna get RSVPs and then we'll send them the link that day. And I said, yeah, but my people, I'm still going to send them the link. It's God bless it. I know Federation wants to get all your information so they can hunt you down. But in the end, I care more about you signing up and being able to show up. So that day, I told Federation, you can get as many RSVPs as you want, but on that day, I'm sending out the link to my congregation. So yes, it will be Zoomed. It will look like an RSVP, and then I'm still sending out to the synagogue, anyone who wants it. So, except for the Zoom bombers. All right.
Rabbi.
Yes.
Did this conservative movement last week come out with an edict on Zoom for services?
You may have missed it. If you watch the video of this class, I kind of said it without saying it. I made this little thing about a conservative tshuva, and I said, we always make a conservative tshuva. And no one understands the conservative movement, and I don't expect people to understand the conservative movement. Do you remember when the gay lesbian tshuva came out, and it was like in the New York Times that we passed 3 tshuva, one that says it's okay, one says it's not okay, one says we don't know, and like people are like, oh, there's the conservative movement, not making up their mind, and no one understands the conservative movement. The idea in the conservative movement is there's options out there. So growing up in the 1970s, and by the way, this rule was made like in the 1940s, there was a choice whether you can use electricity or not use electricity in the conservative movement. So a lot of us grew up using electricity on Shabbat. Driving is a different issue, but electricity on Shabbat was an option if you don't consider it fire. I always used to say, if you consider electricity the use of fire, you can't use electricity. If you consider electricity not the use of fire, that's an option. So last week, there was a tshuva that came out that says, if you don't use electricity on Shabbat, how can you use Zoom? And it gave you all these methods. It pretty much what Orthodox would say when I was Orthodox. When I was a kid, I was Orthodox, so I put everything on timers, and so they described you turn it on before Shabbat, and you don't touch it, and you use your nose to turn the volume, and you use your elbow to move the computer, and I did all that, right? Shabbat elevators, and so they were trying to help people who have problems with electricity use Zoom. And they put it out. They also, by the way, said you shouldn't do Mourner's Kaddish. There's a tshuva out there that says we shouldn't be doing Mourner's Kaddish, that this doesn't count for a minyan, that we shouldn't read Torah. There's a lot of tshuva out there because some rabbis, remember, the conservative movement says, there's a tshuva in the conservative movement that says women don't count. There's conservative synagogues that don't count women. My conservative synagogue in Augusta had a mechitza between men and women, and it was a conservative synagogue. So there's a tshuva that came out a couple years ago. I don't know what they were thinking. They're like, oh, we can eat pizza, but you should bring your own pans to the pizza restaurant. Like we're going to go to I don't know, Beto's, and we're going to bring our pizza pans and go, can you use this to cook them on? And most of the people signed off on this tshuva don't have pulpits or lots of congregants. But God bless the rules from above. But it's an interesting tshuva. I'm actually using it to teach people because it asks a lot of good questions, but there's another option, and that is press the button, because, electricity has been allowed in the conservative movement for a long time. But the problem is the conservative movement now I'm getting on my soapbox. The conservative movement lost its way a long time ago. I'm not going to blame one person, Ismar Shorish. But what happened was we were constantly conserving Judaism. I mean, this is probably the most important, one of the most important times in the conservative movement would be now. The idea of how can we be Jewish and conserve Judaism in a quarantine? We were made for this moment. We were made for Zoom and say, why did we allow driving on Shabbat? Because we weren't living near the synagogue. And so we said, what can we do in this moment? Oh, we can drive to synagogue and back. How can we, if we're going to function in society, we can eat out, but how are we going to eat out? This would have been the perfect moment to embrace the conservative moment. And by the way, it only works while this is happening. When someone says, oh, what happens when it's over? When it's over, then the conservative movement would say, Jewish law always said this applies to this moment, right? So it's not like we're saying, oh, let's go virtual, for the rest of our lives. I don't think anyone really wants this. I know people are like, oh, we're going to stay. We're not staying. No one wants this. I can't hug you. But yes, the conservative movement did put out a tshuva that was all based around the idea, but there's also another tshuva that says use electricity. But what they did in rabbinical school, and the problem with the rabbis today, it's an older rabbi thing. Now us old rabbis use electricity, but the younger ones don't, because what happened for the last 30 or 40 years in rabbi school now is they start the very first day of rabbi school, they bring you into the rabbi meeting hall, and they say, we know there's a tshuva that says you can drive on Shabbat, but you shouldn't. We know there's a tshuva that says you can use electricity, but you shouldn't. We know there's a tshuva that you can eat out in restaurants, but you shouldn't. And this is taken among the younger rabbis. I was just already broken by the time I got there. But everyone else kind of bought into it, even when I went to rabbi school. So it's kind of an older rabbi thing, because now people think we're making it up. That we've been doing this since 1940, and now people are like, we became an Orthodox light or Orthodox wannabe movement, when I think our movement is based around something much deeper about how can we be Jewish and congregate during this moment. And I think this is an amazing moment for the conservative movement, but not everyone understands us. There's many people who don't understand it, and I understand, and that's why I as Jesus said, they know not what they do. All right, Heidi, what do you got?
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, so Rabbi, you said something about bringing the pie pan to the pizza place to make the pizza. That was okay.
Yeah.
But how is that okay if you bring your pan, it's still going into an oven with other pizzas, yada, yada?
It was some rabbi who, again, to understand the conservative movement, you can't eat Domino's cheese pizza and be kosher according to the conservative movement. Or you can not eat Domino's cheese pizza and not keep kosher. This rabbi was asking kind of the similar questions. Well, what can we do? So he came up with this idea of putting pans in there. I don't follow that tshuva. It's ridiculous. And I just can imagine all these Jews bringing their pizza pans in. And again, when this tshuva was released, people are like, how are we going to do this? I said, don't do it. It's stupid. But for those people who wanted to really eat Domino's pizza, bring your pizza pans. But of course, the oven is a problem. Yes, there's a lot of problems. If you care that much about the pizza pan, you probably care about the pizza being made in the same oven as the pepperoni pizza. But that's another day. And then Beth, because I'm running out of time. Beth, what do you got? You are unmuted.
I was going to say that Rabbi Schiff actually gave Rabbi Adelson a really hard time.
Yes.
About Zoom.
Yes.
Interestingly, and I believe that we're a communal religion.
Yes.
And which one is, when you do one mitzvah, you sometimes break another.
Yes.
It would seem to me that the priority is community.
Good. The term is called mitzvah gedola, the greater mitzvah. And the reason we shouldn't drive on Shabbat, the conservative movement says don't drive on Shabbat, but it's better to drive on Shabbat to shul and back than not drive on Shabbat. And what I would say is it's better to Zoom services than not to get to congregate on Zoom on Shabbat than to not congregate at all. Which, again, so yeah, it's the idea of community. What is the conservative movement always said Shabbat gathering was more important than almost anything, right? Including driving, which is a little fire inside your car. So yeah, and it was interesting because something was posted online and then it was taken down because, it's part of it is people just don't understand our movement. I mean, they don't have to. And I had a few congregants come to me and I said, I'm going to take the high road. I don't need, I can handle it. I've been doing this for a long time. It's the whole conservative Jewish thing, and I really believe in our movement. I just think I'm the last one. I think I'm the last conservative Jew. And our movement, God bless it. It just lost its way. Okay, people, it is 12:59 and I have a meeting in 30 seconds and I love you. I'll see you later and you're wonderful. And that's another, and by the way, I am going to use that tshuva as a tough question too. I'm going to do electricity. We have a lot of tough questions. So I am going to go down the conservative movement path, electricity, gelatin, eating out in restaurants. So don't worry. You have questions. I know we're going to tackle them. We have a lot of tough questions. Good job, guys.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
See everyone.